my name is Chloe Myers, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the life of Helen Lester. But before I begin, I would like you to think back to your childhood. Think of a book that helped inspire you to become who you are today. Well, Helen Lester was that person for me. She wrote books that have inspired me throughout my life. Helen Lester was born on June 12, 1936 in Edison, Illinois. She moved around the United States and ended up making homes in these four cities: New York City, San Francisco, Chicago, and Minneapolis. She finally settled in New York City with her husband. She was a full-time teacher, and she finally decided, after her sons were married and moved on, that she would become a children's literaturist. When she was a teacher, she mainly worked with second graders, and those children helped inspire her to write the books that she wrote. And in 1979, her first children's book was published, and it just kind of took off from there. So she has written many books in the last 40 years, and she created them to teach us what life lessons we need to be taught in our daily lives. So how to be unique, not to bully somebody for being different than you, or maybe if you needed to learn to tie your shoes. She even has a book for that. So 3 Cheers for Tacky. It was published in 1994, and the reason for this book was mainly to help find the uniqueness of you and to dig that uniqueness up. Pretty much what happens in the story is Tacky decides that he wants to join his friends and join this lovely cheer competition, and he tries to practice, and when he practices, he finally does it right. But in the end, he trips over his shirt tail and makes up a whole other routine. And then the judges, who are passed out from all the other routines, because they're exactly like, they wake up, and so does the audience, and then they beg for more. So they love the uniqueness and the weirdness of Tacky. So I think that teachers would read this book in the classroom to teach children that it's okay to be unique and to kind of do things differently. A Porcupine Named Fluffy. This was published in 1986, and the story mainly talks about a porcupine whose parents wanted to name something different, something not any other porcupine would have been named. So when they named him, he tried to think of creative ways of how to become fluffy. He decided to become a pillow. He decided that a bubble bath was fluffy, so he was going to cover himself in bubble bath. And many other different ways. I think that this book teaches that you kind of make what your name is. You aren't what your name is. So even though he's not fluffy, he still represents his name. So whatever he does is making his name proud. They can use this in the classroom to help teach students about what makes something fluffy, because obviously porcupines are not fluffy, and how to make choices to help you define who you will be in the future. And actually, I will read a part of the book. And this part is actually my favorite, just because his uniqueness really shows. He tried soaking in a bubble bath for 45 minutes, but he did not become fluffy. He became soggy. He tried whipped cream. He put a little on each quill. It was not easy, and it took more than half a day. But this did not make Fluffy fluffy. They should have named him Gooey, he sighed, and he is covered in whipped cream. So the next book that I read was Tacky Locks and the 3 Bears. So the class decided that they wanted to have a little play going on, and so they chose Tacky Locks and the 3 Bears. The audience loved it. However, Tacky being the penguin that he is, it was completely destroyed at the end of the story. So when it was published in 2002, Helen Lester was actually going through a phase where she was kind of getting out of the classroom and trying to write these books, and this was the first one she actually wrote when she left the class. So teachers can use this by showing children it's okay to be who you are, and if you have fun, it's okay to mess up. At least you tried. So personal influence and other influences. So she influenced other teachers by having the teachers read the stories in their classroom and teach their children these unique lessons that are taught through her stories. She influenced me personally because I want to be able to read these books in my classroom. I want to help children become unique and different and then be okay with that. And I think that even though she was influenced by her students and her own children, that they kind of created a more personal and distinct kind of feeling throughout the books. And actually I have a quote by Helen Lester, which it's really difficult to find a quote because she is so personal that if you look her up online, you can't actually find anything. So the one that I found was, I taught elementary school for many years, and now all of my second graders have come back to haunt me. Tacky the penguin, Buddy the rabbit, Pinkerton the pig, Woody Wat, Princess Penelope, and Twitty the fidget. They were all in her classes, which I thought was really kind of cool because in our daily lives we have students just like that in our very own classrooms. So in conclusion, I hope that you learned more about her and her work and her influences. But I also hope that you became inspired to write to your children and help them learn these lessons and teach them that it is okay to be unique and very different. And then there are my sources.